is an Academy Award nominated and Emmy-winning actor and writer, you know, as one of the original cast members of Saturday Night Live and from the movies Ghostbusters, The Blues Brothers, and so many other. He has recently added Crystal Head Onyx and agave-based vodka in a beautiful bottle to his award-winning Crystal Head vodka line. Please welcome to the show the great, the fantastic Dan Aykroyd. How are you, Danny?
A1, sir. Good to talk to you. Good to talk.
And you're outside with the Bluesmobile right now.
I know. I listen. You know, I've always looked for these old Ford Marquis, the Grand Marquis. They don't make them anymore, and they ride like a Rolls Royce. They're so overbuilt. And I was in upstate New York a couple of years ago, and at middle of the night in a town up there, and I just flashed by this town, in a car lot, I just saw a corner of this car, and I was looking for a black one. So I call up, and I find out that the guy says, "Oh, well, I've got two of them." I said, "Well, I want both." He says, "You know your cars, man. They're FBI cars." So I get them home, and dig this, watch this. Seth, this car wasn't an FBI car, but it belonged to the State Department. Wow. See that? You see? Wait, let me get it right here, because I really got to see this here. How do we get that? You see?
There you go.
There it is. Look, see? Department of State, Washington, D.C. And it has a gun safe in it. It had a light and siren. And they were made, you know, for diplomatic assistance, for couriers, you know, take to the airport. And my fantasy is that Hillary Clinton rode in this car. And, you know, I'm going to lend it to Mike Pompeo. I've got two of them. I'm going to lend them to him to pack up his family and head on out anytime, and I'll drive them.
That's
myself.
So kind of you. No, Dan,
yeah.
What happens when
Let's go inside.
Yeah, let's go inside. I have to ask, though, Dan, what does a gentleman say when he's selling two cars and he realizes Dan Aykroyd's the one who's buying them?
Well, I always have intermediaries.
Oh,
see?
very smart.
We don't have to overpay. Like I have two of those government cars, and I have three other Marquis. And Seth, for all of these cars, all of them, I'm into them. I've got 5 of them. My daughter has one. My neighbor has one. I've got those 2. My dad used to drive one. $60,000 for all of them.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean that's really good. So when the name Aykroyd comes up, you know the price will go up by seven times.
Right, and I guess you can't say you're not that Dan Aykroyd.
No, that's.
Hey, I want to say this. The last time I saw you was at the SNL 40th, and this year is the 40th anniversary of the Blues Brothers, which is must be even harder for you to wrap your head around. Is it true that you guys actually just one day just lost John?
Well, on the movie, this is a great story. We were shooting at the Harvey, Illinois Mall, you know, that famous mall scene. It was an abandoned mall at the time. The area had suffered some economic setbacks, and we were there at 3 in the morning shooting the mall scene, and lunch had broken, and we went looking for John, couldn't find him anywhere, you know. And so I just, what are we going to do? So I saw this path kind of leading out of the you know, the weed-strewn parking lot into a suburban neighborhood nearby, and I'll just try that. And I walked down this path, and I walked into the neighborhood, and I looked. All the houses were dark, but halfway down one of the streets, there were lights on. And I thought, well, I don't know. I mean, I've got an instinct here. I'm gonna try. And I knocked on the door. And the guy said, yeah. And I said, we're shooting a movie over here. Yeah, I know. Well, and we're looking for one of our actors. Yeah, I know, Belushi. He came in there about a half an hour ago. He raided my fridge. He's asleep on my couch. It was the guest who never left, who could, you know, he'd walk into anybody's house in America and be welcomed, you know, raid the fridge and lay down. It's, you know, it's like Murray, who goes into these weddings and goes and, you know, they're ambassadors of comedy.
And it's true. They've been, you know, again, you do it for that long, and you do it at a time where, you know, the show is obviously the most iconic thing on television, and obviously its longevity has spoken to what you guys established. You and John shared an office. One day I would love to walk the halls of 17 with you, because I believe it was an office I ended up with, but you actually you made some calls as to what the 17th floor needed, including a shower. And is it true you put in bunk beds?
You know, I bet you used that shower when you were there. I mean, I established that shower for the writers staying over. Yes, I put in bunk beds and a toaster oven and a kettle, and it was living there for me. I lived there like for most of the show. I lived there every Tuesday night, and sometimes every Wednesday night. So during the entire run of SNL when I was there, and beautiful times and beautiful memories. But the Blues Brothers, we still do it. Jimmy, John's brother, and I still have the Blues Brothers Classic Review. And we, in pre-COVID times, we were going out to casinos and corporate events and concert halls and having really a lot of fun with it. I do miss the music. That is something that's so essential, and it's too bad that we can't perform. All of us in the music industry. Your Broadway performer today, his gig is down. All my people at House of Blues. We have 13 nightclubs. We have several thousand employees that can't come to work. Barbacks, waiters, waitresses. It's this virus is more powerful than any CEO or head of state. It's a dead zombie calling the shots. And I have optimism, though. I think that mankind, if we all pull together and are sensible about wearing masks and accepting the vaccines, and don't play into the ignorance of many who would deny what good these things are going to do, we'll get through this. And I welcome you to the House and Blues in Vegas. Come and party with us when we're back up.
One of the things that can help people get through while they're social distancing is, of course, some spirits. You've got a new Crystal Skull. Are you excited about having a new? And I poured myself a drink that I'm going to join you with. But tell us about the new the Onyx.
Well, this has never been done before. To take the blue agave plant, which is what tequila is made out of, and give it a vodka finish. It's dangerous. You're going to like that.
It's wonderful.
It has a kind of an earthy absinthe kind of smell to it. It's what we've done is taken the blue agave fluid mash, and we've mixed it with the Newfoundland water, and we have a peppery, kind of fiery, earthy vodka here that is based and never been based on blue agave vodka. It never has been. We're the first to do it. Here's our Pride Diversity bottle, which comes out at Pride times. We're very happy that constituency follows us because we're a Canadian-made vodka and not a vodka made in some countries where gay people are persecuted. And the consumer in America and Canada and the world is very conscious of our identity as a Canadian product. But did you have a sip of that? Isn't that nice?
It's really nice. It's really, it's just what we need. It's really great.
Yeah, it's, some people have said it's like a white whiskey or a kind of a more earthy, sweeter absinthe. And it's just exactly what we need in moderation. I would take 5 people to a head, not 1 person to a head. But in this kind of time of isolation, a lot of reflection. I've been doing a lot of introspection. I've been answering a lot of emails. Seth, you've really made it in comedy. You're at the pinnacle, the peak. You have your own show. You have your own. You can go stand up. You're going to be producing other television. You got to work with Amy Poehler. An update. You guys managed that desk, didn't you?
Yeah, it was some of the best years of my life.
Toast and Shay, and they're doing such a good job. It's just wonderful. It wasn't a gig I enjoyed doing, but when I saw people who could really handle it, like you and Amy, it was wonderful. Now,
well, you sort of did it as a character. Isn't that a safe way to say it?
And it didn't really fit. I was trying to be straight all the way through and not accepting the jokes. You guys had it perfectly, and especially you. I think probably you were one of the best ever to deliver that material. And you've made it, and you must have young people always coming to you and saying, how do I get into the business? Or how do I get into the industry? Or how do I learn about comedy? Well, I have tonight, I've got some tips for those
great.
Young people out there who want to learn about comedy and improv and stand-up. The first thing that you have to do is you've got to go to the National Comedy Museum in Erie, in Jamestown, New York. It's in the old Erie railway station there. And it takes you right from, the Greek comedies, Aristophanes, the Frogs, all the way through the blue comedy of the 50s. Those blue records that women and men were making, right through to Saturday Night Live and Second City. It is a museum of comedy and not to be missed. And any kid in high school or college that wants to be a writer, a comedy writer, they go there. They're going to get an afternoon course in comedy history. And my motorcycle is there. The motorcycle that I rode to SNL on each of those 4 years. I rode down the New York Thruway, taking my life in my hands on that Harley. And they came to me and said, "Is there anything, any memorabilia we can get from your time at SNL?" I said, "The bike that kept me alive for those 4 years." Well, that's there, and the story's there. The other thing is, there's an author called Cliff Nesterhoff, Nesterhoff. He wrote a book called The Comedians. It's a manual for understanding British and American comedy, the influence of Canadians. It's one of the best compendiums of comedy that I've ever read. And then Steve Martin's book, Born Standing Up, and his book, The Troubadour. And then John Lithgow wrote a book called Drama. And so any novice there that wants to get into the industry, wants to understand rhythm, comedy, performance, the commitment of an actor in comedy, I would say those are the books to read: Born Standing Up, Troubadour, Nesterhoff's book, The Comedian, and get to the museum in Jamestown. It's there because Lucille Ball's home was there.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic advice. So kind of you to pass it along. Thank you so much for being here, Dan. It is always such a
absolutely.
pleasure. Crystal Head Onyx is available now.